And airline passengers who are able to beat the weather this Thanksgiving might find themselves wondering just how small is too small when it comes to airplane seats. The FAA hopes to have an answer to that soon.
It started tests aimed at setting a minimum standard for seat size and the space between rows. Kris Van Cleave visited the test facility and joins us from Reagan National Airport outside Washington. Kris, what did you learn?
Well, good morning. This took an order from Congress to get the FAA to do this testing. It's the first time they've looked at seat size specifically. Some perspective here. This piece of paper is actually bigger than some of the seats people will be getting into today as they take to the skies. And this grows out of concern as seats have gotten smaller, space has gotten tighter, and more people have gotten onto fuller airplanes, that could impact how long it takes to safely get off a plane in an emergency.
In a simulated cabin that can be filled with smoke and plunged into darkness,
Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
The FAA will try to determine at what point the size of seats and space between rows becomes a hazard to evacuating an airplane quickly.
Is there an ideal amount of time to get everybody off an airplane?
As quick as possible if there is an emergency.
Stacey Zinke-McKee is with the FAA.
The queuing is usually not for people to get into the aisles, but actually to get out of the aircraft.
Flyers might think their seats are too close, but that may not have any impact on safety at all.
Correct. It might not. But that's the reason we're going to gather data.
When American Airlines Flight 383 had an engine catch fire on takeoff in Chicago, it took more than 2 minutes to evacuate, in part because passengers grabbed their luggage. But during the 12 days of FAA testing at this Oklahoma City facility, the 720 volunteer passengers won't have to deal with real-life obstacles like bags, smoke, comfort animals, or the dark. And the volunteers will be broken into groups of just 60. The smallest 737 seats at least double that. The FAA says it designed the test to focus solely on two variables, seat width and the space between rows known as seat pitch.
These tests are going to be nothing but a sham.
John Murrow is from the National Consumers League. It and 9 other groups sent a letter to Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao and the FAA administrator criticizing the seat testing.
Consumers should not think for a minute that these tests are being done in a way that would accurately represent what could happen in an emergency evacuation.
Murrow worries airlines will use the FAA's findings to further reduce space and add more seats. Airline seat width is down as much as 4 inches over the last 30 years to as little as just 16 inches wide. And seat pitch has shrunk from about 35 inches to 31, and in some cases, as little as 28 inches.
Let's take a look.
But Spirit Airlines says we're looking at seat size all wrong. It's more about the amount of usable space. Next month, they're launching redesigned memory foam seats with a curved back for better legroom at 28 inches apart. But CEO Ted Christie says you'll have as much room as seats with 30 inches of pitch.
Do you have any concerns about this not being enough space to safely evacuate a plane quickly for people to be comfortable?
None at all. There's been many tests done to ensure that these seats and our configuration meets with safety requirements. While they are closer together than a first-class product, they've been validated to show that there's adequate space to egress the airplane.
And in fairness to Spirit, those seats are noticeably more comfortable than the ones they're replacing. The FAA testing should be complete by the end of the year, with a report coming next summer. From there, it goes to an advisory committee that will make recommendations to the FAA about regulations. So bottom line, any new rules are probably years away. Anthony?
Ooh, Kris, thank you very much. One word, Kris, wider, please. Wider.
I bet first class hasn't changed that much.
No, I bet it hasn't. But I mean, the size of those seats is just, it's crazy. Yeah.